Hello, welcome back to Far Horizons Gaming. My name is Ben, and today we're going to continue awesome Suzerain. So last time we left off, we put our new police force to work, implemented some new military budgets, and entered into some diplomatic negotiations with Volksland. So, starting off today, it looks like we have 3 newspaper reports and then a story beat in Valen. So let's check out the news. Alright, got one from the Whole Sword Post here. Swordland and Agnolia enter alliance. Whoops, I guess it's Agnolia, not Volksland. Whoopsie doodle. Whatever, okay. Yeah, Swordland is entering a military alliance with Agnolia along a new trade deal between the two countries, which comes into effect on Tuesday. Agnolian Prime Minister Van Horten told reporters that this alliance is a historic development that will benefit both countries economically and diplomatically. He also said that this will help both countries stay strong against external threats, pointing out both countries' concern regarding their neighbor Rumburg. Apart from the military alliance, Swordland will open its agriculture market to Agnolia with the new trade agreement. The deal will also see an increase in trade volume between the two countries, particularly in Agnolian steel. We will continue to advocate for continued fair trade between our two countries in a relationship that has been extraordinarily beneficial to both Agnolia and Swordland, Van Horten said. He congratulated President Rain for bringing the two countries closer again. Cool. So other than forgetting what country we're in, it sounds nice. Alright, so we got 2 from Geopolitico. It's doing that weird thing again where they're not at the top. So, new alliance in Eastern Marcopa. As a result of his recent Agnolian visit, President Rain and Prime Minister Van Horten have made a joint announcement that Swordland and Agnolia will enter an alliance. The ever-changing political landscape of Eastern Marcopa is about to change again. The effects of this alliance in the grander scheme will mean an increased trade and, more importantly, military deterrent against the foes of the two countries. This is especially important following the heightened tensions in between Agnolia and Volksland. President Rain's Agnolia visit has certainly been fruitful for Swordland so far. Yeah, I think what happened is, it's like the Volksland Sea right there next to Agnolia, so I just looked at that and thought it's what it was. Okay, Hegel. Van Horten is playing with fire. Yesterday morning, Chancellor of Volksland Hegel delivered a press conference in Helm about the escalating tensions in Helluland. During the press release, he said Agnolia's unlawful occupation of the island will not stop us from doing whatever it takes to protect our people living in Helluland. He heavily criticized and condemned Prime Minister Van Horten, saying we are dealing with an illegal occupation force which doesn't refrain from entering our territorial waters without asking our permission. Van Horten is playing with fire, and if he is not careful, he might get burned, said Hegel. Geopolitical will be watching the developments closely. Awesome. Yep, that's exactly what I did. Oops. Oh well. Alright. So, moving on to the Republic of Valen. Trade talks with the President of Valen. Nice. Swordland 1's flight from Holzor to Rocklovitz took approximately 5 hours. Despite heavy turbulence, I managed to sleep a little. Along with Simon and David, we landed at the international airport of the capital city of Valen. Our aim here is to finalize the trade deal drafted in between Swordland and Valen. Shortly after our plane landed, the door opened and the sun blinded me for a moment. I stepped outside. I saw the soldiers lined up either side of a red carpet. There must have been at least 100 soldiers. The marching band started playing and the soldiers immediately saluted me. I saluted the soldiers. At the bottom of the stairs, Viktor Smolak was waiting for me next to a military jeep with a few soldiers by his side. There were a few reporters on the side waiting for their cameras. With their cameras. He was a tall man, almost as tall as me. He was wearing large sunglasses and his attire was a regular suit, contrasting with the military attire of everyone else in the field. Mr. President, welcome to Rocklovitz. Immediately motioned for an embrace. We hugged and many cameras went off at the same time. Turned around for a couple of additional poses. Thank you for inviting us. Now that the pleasantries are done, let's go. We'll take the jeep for a tour. With another tune from the marching band, we boarded the military jeep. He sat in the driver's seat and I sat next to him. As we started speeding up, the soldiers saluted again. Victor Smolak saluted back. Yeah, let's go and salute him too. I saluted the soldiers. My security detail and Victor's security detail started following us immediately, along with the team of reporters.
We will first go to the city center to see the opening of a statue.
Whose statue?
It's mine, of course.
We kept making small talk about the flight and the weather until we started making our way into the city center. On almost every corner, there were reporters taking photos of us. Oddly enough, every single street that we took seemed completely empty. Is Rocklevitz always this empty?
I had the locals close down their businesses because of your visit, so we can enjoy the city more. There we are.
We arrived at the city center. In the middle of a large plaza, there's a covered statue. Lots of people had gathered behind fences, and they were waving both Swordland and Valen flags. Victor waved back at them.
My people have been very supportive of this visit, Mr. President. I'm sure you are delighted to see.
A man came closer to the fences and started yelling at Victor. With my limited knowledge of the Vasic language, I understood the words Victor and murderer. Almost instantaneously, 2 soldiers showed up from behind the man, and he was taken away.
Thankfully, the sun is up. Today will be a good day for the review.
What happened to the man who was protesting you?
Oh, which man? The one in the crowd? Don't worry about the details. He must have been a troubled fellow. Let's focus on the event.
We took our places in front of the statue. With a drum roll, the statue of Victor Smolak was uncovered. The statue was done pretty well, except that he's made more masculine. He's wearing a black cloak and holding a sword in his hand.
Excellent statue. Very lifelike. What do you think?
Yes, it's very good. Very lifelike.
Glad you appreciate the art behind it. Join me for a walk.
I followed him through the streets. At every corner, more and more photos were taken. We stopped in front of a pastry vendor on the street.
Give me 2 strudel.
The man behind the stand smiled and gave us 2 strudels. Put my hand in my wallet and brought up some money to give the vendor.
Hold up. Your money doesn't count here. I got this.
He handed the money to the street vendor. The cameras flashed again. Afterwards, we walked a short distance to the palace. Passing the gates of the palace, we made our way into the main building, made from ivory-colored stones. The old guard towers flanked the magnificent main building from both sides. The inside of the palace was very spacious, with a very large chandelier hanging from the ceiling. Grand staircases made from the same ivory stone had red carpets on them. On both sides to the upper levels, guards stood with the traditional outfits of the old Vasic kingdoms. We finally reached the office of the President of Valen. The door closed behind us. The interior boasted gold ornaments on the walls, ivory colors, and various jewels attached to different artifacts of old. As it was customary in Valen, we sat down on the carpet.
Now we can talk about our trade deal.
I nodded.
But before that,
he clapped his hands twice.
Bring the Keisha.
2 assistants immediately entered the room, carrying a large ornamented Keisha, the well-known smoking instrument originating from Valen. They immediately lit it up, and the room was filled with the smell of tobacco. He inhaled the smoke and handed me the Keisha. I'll be polite. It was probably the highest quality tobacco I'd ever smoked. I handed it back. He took another puff, filling the room with more smoke.
So, Mr. President. That's too long. Can I call you Anton?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Anton, tell me, what do you really think about Romberg?
A barking dog doesn't bite.
I wouldn't be so sure, Anton. I assure you their time will come.
Regardless, I would rather prevent further conflict in the region.
You know as well as I do, Anton. They are coming, whether we like it or not. They are the aggressor, not us. For now, I have something else in mind.
I'm listening. He clapped his hands again. 2 assistants came in the room with a map of the border regions in between Valen and Swordland. He pointed at the border.
Look. Bloods and their so-called BFF are causing problems for me in this region. I know that they are also a problem for you as well. I will not allow these traitors to exist on my border, so I will hit them with all the might of Valen. These terrorists need to be destroyed. I call it Operation Bear Trap.
What do you want from me? He grinned and lay back on the large pillow behind him.
Here is the deal. I will give you the best trade deal in the region. You'll give me your assistance crushing the terrorists on both of our borders.
I need specifics.
Sure. My spies have infiltrated BFF cells and they found caches of KA-74s. We traced them back to Romberg. This alone justifies my retaliation to protect my country. Worst of all, we've also found that similar shipments are going to Sordon. Yes, Anton, you see, this is not just Valen's problem. Let us take a step back and talk about what you will get in return. I propose to you a no-tariff agreement, co-investment projects, and oil. In return, you will assist me in destroying the terrorists in my country.
Might be international ramifications.
To hell with international ramifications. I will protect my country. I don't care what they say. What I want from you in return for all the money and the resources is a joint operation between our armies against BFF.
I took a moment to think about it. That's a tough one. 'Cause I know trying to have looser borders and be more accepting of refugees. But, this is a tough one. On the other hand, having two allies against Rumberg could come in handy. Let's negotiate. Let's negotiate Sorlin's contribution in this operation.
You are a tough one, Anton. Normally, I wouldn't offer anything else, but I like you. Here is my final offer. When the operation starts, with or without you, there will be stragglers trying to cross into Swordland. We just want you to support the operation, even if you do not join. Stop the terrorists from fleeing into your country, and you will have your deal. Simple, isn't it? So, what do you think?
This almost feels like a deal with the devil, but we're gonna go for it. Deal.
I knew I could trust you, Anton. Tonight we will drink.
He clapped his hands again.
Drinks, dancers, music.
A group of dancers and performers entered the smoke-filled room. As they performed their songs, we clinked our glasses to our newly found partnership while sipping the sweet Vasic liquor. The next day, I returned to Swordland with a hangover. Nice. Alright. So, we got a journal update here, just saying that we negotiated a trade deal with Valen. Our country overview, looks like we got a couple here. Alright, economy, we got increased trade value. New successful trade agreements in a free trade zone caused an increase in the volume of traded goods between Swordland and the region. That's a definite green. That's bringing in a lot more money. Military, Valen border defense. Additional military forces are moving to reinforce the border between us and Valen. So that's just an orange one. Not worried about that. Okay, yeah, defend border against BFF. Republic of Swordland hereby suspends the entry of all brutish aliens coming from the Republic of Valen due to concerns of terrorism. That could cause some political ramifications, but tariff-free oil imports is definitely pretty useful. I guess I missed this one over here. Ex-president and our founder, Tarkin Sol, declared the Brutish Freedom Party, or BFP, to be an illegal criminal organization due to their secessionist activities. Any suspected member of the party shall be arrested without trial. Any event, operation, or organization suspected to be colluding with the BFP will be disbanded and its partakers arrested. That's also possibly a problem. but we're going to roll with it. Okay, so we have one newspaper report here, which is probably just going to be talking about that new deal. Yep, from the Whole Sword Post. Swordland ratified a new trade agreement with Valen. Swordland ratified a new trade agreement and an investment protection agreement with Valen. This is a significant development that shows a significant normalization of Swordish phasic relations after decades of troubles. At the most basic level, the agreements will support jobs and growth between the two nations and ensure that Swordland will be buying Vasic oil from a cheaper price. The agreements will gradually reduce most tariffs and regulatory barriers, creating new opportunities for Swordish entrepreneurs to do business and invest in Valen. The negotiations also included a cooperation pact against the terrorist organization Bludish Freedom Front. Nice, okay, and it looks like all we have is going back to Whole Sword. So, let's go give a speech of the President on the reforms. I came to the Grand National Assembly of Swordland to deliver a speech regarding the new constitution and ask for the support of the Assembly before the upcoming vote. I walked quickly through the corridors, giving my greetings to people on my way towards the Parliamentary Hall. When I entered the hall, the Assembly was in complete chaos, with shouting and cursing between the parties. There was a heavy argument about a proposal made by an MP from the NFP. I took my seat inside the special area reserved for the ministers. Gloria was shouting from her seat at the center of the hall as she hit the gavel 3 times, with each strike heavier than the one before. Order! Order! I saw Cassaro Keebner standing up from his seat and shouting towards the members of the PFJP. Mr. Keebner, calm yourself. Show respect to the procedures of this assembly. Despite our efforts, the argument continued for a couple of minutes before everybody took back to their seats and finally went quiet. Mr. Keebner, next time when I tell you to do so, either take your seat or leave the hall so we can proceed with the procedures of this assembly and continue our duties. Some MPs from the NFP side shouted back at her in protest. Honorable ladies and gentlemen, if you allow me to continue. She pointed at me. We have the President here with us today. He has asked to give an important announcement. The assembly fell silent. You have the floor, Mr. President. I walked to the stand as loud clapping started in the USP side. Honorable members of the Grand National Assembly of Swordland, I am here today to raise important questions regarding our outdated constitution. Our elected assembly has always been overshadowed by the executive and the designated judiciary branches in Swordland. The Grand National Assembly must be able to exercise this job properly and without obstruction. However, our current constitution fails to guarantee this. I continued. Therefore, we propose changes to the constitution to prepare Swordland for a more democratic era. Applauses came from USP and PFJP seats. We will rebalance the branches of government to ensure a more democratic process. I focused on unity. It is more important than ever that we stand united as a nation in these changing times. I call everybody to be part of the change our people have been calling for. We all want to make Swordland better, don't we? Let's embrace democracy and unite under the banner of our people, and surely Swordland will be great again. Let's embrace the future. Just as I was about to continue speaking, Gloria Tori interrupted me. Mr. President, with all due respect, I believe Swordland is already democratic. We both know that our constitution is flawed. The Tarkane's soul and his efforts cannot be ignored. We must keep following the path he defined for Swordish people. I am sure the honorable members of USP will see that the President is acting rash by allying with the opposition to destroy the culture of soulism that established Swordland. That was the extent of my quick note. Thank you. The President has the floor. That was disrespectful, Mrs. Speaker. Please don't try to sabotage my speech. Please continue your speech, Mr. President. I took a breath and continued. I ask everyone to think clearly about our current situation and join us for change. Be part of a new era for Swordland. Join us and vote for our proposal. I will address all the problems of the past in my proposal. I saluted the crowd. For United Swordland. The assembly roared with all kinds of different reactions. Some applause came from the PFJP and USP seats. Most of the others started to make loud noises again. Thank you for the speech, Mr. President. I walked back to my seat as many MPs asked to speak. Franz Richter was among them. Yes, Mr. Richter. Thank you, Mrs. Speaker. I would like to thank Mr. President for his speech. We, the People's Freedom and Justice Party, stand in agreement with the need for a more democratic constitution. I would like to thank the ladies and gentlemen of the United Swordland Party for the more open attitude compared to past years. As long as Mr. President's words prove not to be just words, we will be behind this much-needed movement for change. We welcome this attempt. I ask Mr. President to share the final contents of these proposals as soon as possible. Thank you, Mrs. Speaker. Suddenly, Kasara Keebner started yelling from his seat. And the President must have lost his mind to be cooperating with the likes of you, Mr. Richter. You and PFJP are nothing but puppets of Western interests. Order! Madam Speaker, I know you are in agreement with me as well. Don't stand idly there while this administration is making deals with snakes and undermining the integrity of Order, Mr. Keebner! How many times do I need to say you're speaking out of turn? I demand to speak. Fun. Gloria gave him a stare. She looked annoyed. Very well, Mr. Keebner. Go ahead. Mr. President. He looked directly at me. The nationalist movement does not agree with your priorities, nor the way you're trying to implement them. The National Front Party will not stand with you on your new constitution. Let it be known that the NFP's concerns are not included in the so-called democratic reforms. Thus, Mr. President has no right to claim them as such. We will stand our ground against any attempt to bring down our established political culture and national values. Thank you. Kasara went back to his seat, but the chaos in the assembly continued. I asked to speak. Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Keebner. I looked at him. It is you who shouldn't use the word democratic when you want a more centralized government. He watched as he slouched down his seat, legs crossed. Do not stand against change. Be a part of it, Mr. Keebner. We can do so much more together. I expect your support in the upcoming vote, Mr. Keebner. Gloria looked at me to see if I finished my response. Mr. Richter, we'd like to have cooperation between our parties. Thank you for your support. We are looking forward to working with the PFJP. Gloria looked at me to see if I finished my response. Yes, thank you, Mrs. Speaker. I got up from my seat and started my walk towards the exit. MPs kept shouting and responding to each other, creating a loud mess where nothing was legible. Order! Order! This topic is finished. We are moving on to our next topic. I slowly left the hall. The shouting could be heard from every corridor of the Grand National Assembly. Nice, okay. Looks like we have a report, a couple of newspapers, a couple of reports. I was about to say I don't see a story beat, but the chapter's over. So, I guess let's go ahead and take a look at all these reports here. So, starting with the Whole Sword Post. Rain, our elected assembly has always been overshadowed. President Rain has called on the Grand National Assembly of Swordland to support the upcoming constitutional changes in his address to the Parliament. The President's address came after a series of meetings within the USP, which probably involved discussions about the new constitution. President Rain talked about the main points of their proposed changes and revealed that the current draft will be looked over again with the leaders of the PFJP before it's proposed in the Parliament. Our elected assembly has always been overshadowed by the executive and designated judiciary branches in Swordland, said President Rain, criticizing the power of the Supreme Court as well as the very office he's holding. This statement was met with surprise and was welcomed by Franz Richter of the PFJP. The Grand National Assembly must be able to exercise its job properly and without obstruction. However, our current constitution fails to guarantee this, said President Rain, showing that he is willing to bring changes that would elevate the Parliament's position. And one more from Geopolitico. Walker warns Volkslandian Navy over Helluland dispute. The tensions between Agnolia and Volksland keep climbing. The latest addition to the escalations happened yesterday on the Volkslavian Channel, when the Volkslandian ships started advancing on the perimeter around the island. According to the Agnolian sources, yesterday morning, the Agnolian battleship Van Gilben, A-387, had intercepted a Volkslandian destroyer, Stanison, and warned them to move out of Agnolian waters. The Volkslandian captain did not respond to the communication, but both ships backed away from the scene after several hours of standstill. Seeing this event as Volksland putting pressure over the island, Arcasian President Dwight Walker warned the Volkslandian Navy, saying, "We will not tolerate any attempts to trigger an incident on international waters. I call upon Mr. Hagel, pull your ships back immediately." Nice. Alright. Report from Wholesword, reform status. Lucy and Galad reported that so far they've been able to get in total 96 signatures behind the proposal. Efforts are underway to increase the support and reach out to necessary members to reach 150. So we're getting close, but it might be not quite enough. We'll see. And a border report from Suzerain. Defense Minister Josef Lancia reports that the Valen borders have been closed and the divisions of the Third Army are ready for the operation. Cool. I don't know if I like that, but that might have been a necessary move. Alright, well, that appears to be everything for this chapter, whatever it is. So I think I'll go and call it here for today. So if you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see y'all next time.